You've made millions of dollars, but you just had a really high-profile problem with the lawsuit that
Right.
came up
Right.
after you lost your laptop because it was missing in Europe while you were on tour. All of a sudden, you offered a $20,000 reward and then $1 million reward on YouTube for it.
That's right.
And it came back later, but it was found in a garbage can in some remote area, in the wooded area in Germany.
That's right.
And the guy wanted to sue you after you refused to pay the money because it was corrupted, and you really, I don't think, believed that it was a legitimate situation, right?
Yeah, I didn't believe it was legitimate, but I mean, I think that lawsuit and I think the verdict really had a lot more to do with questions of class, questions of even race, and I'm not saying that it was a racist lawsuit, but I'm just saying being a young person of color. In the 1%, so to speak, I stayed.
I call it the black overclass.
The black overclass, yeah. I felt like people, or at least the plaintiff in this situation or in this dispute, wanted to teach me a lesson because he felt like, hey, well, Ryan didn't say thank you when I returned his stuff. Ryan didn't say thank you when I returned his stuff. That was his main. I think his main point of contention with me.
Well, I mean, okay, so had you said thank you and he thought that he was going to get the 1.2 verdict, then he would have just not done that then? Is that what he's saying? If you would have said thank you, he wouldn't have sued you?
Yeah. I think that, had there been a dialogue that had occurred before the actual lawsuit was filed, I think that there could have been a much more amicable settlement.
So do you fault yourself for that, or?
Nah, first of all, losing $1 million, making $1 million, at the level at which I'm doing business right now, I think that it's just, it's part of the territory. It comes with the territory. It's part of just the cost of doing business, and so.
So you're not going to fight it?
We'll figure out a way to amicably resolve the situation. We put in for an appeal, but to really run that appeal requires that I would have to put up the $1 million in escrow or put up a bond for $1 million. Frankly, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting that case because I really believed that it was a legitimate fight that we had. And now that the verdict is in, man, it's like, the people have spoken, the jury of my peers have spoken. We'll figure out a way to amicably resolve it. I mean, I'm not just going to write a $1 million or $1.18 million check to this guy right now, but,
But a lot of people wonder that when you lose a verdict like that, what do you have to do? Are you on the hook for that money, or is it something that down the line can be worked out, or what is it?
Well, of course it can be worked out.
What's the timeline?
Yeah, of course it can be worked out.
Is he calling you saying, I want my money now, or what is it?
Absolutely. Of course he's calling. Of course he's calling up. Of course he's, of course he's calling up. Of course he's freezing bank accounts. Of course he's, putting out information subpoenas to everywhere that my income streams are coming from. So, my publishing companies, even Live Nation last night, that show almost didn't go on last night because they wanted to actually hold the production money. So the money that I actually was going to invest in producing the show, he was claiming that as his money. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's all people, man. I think, people have to be reasonable after a while. So they can hold the paperwork and hold the judgment over my head and everything. But at the end of the day, man, they got to go home to their families too. He has a family, he has children, he has a business that he's running. The attorneys in the case, this is not their, while they have become very emotionally attached to it, and I think that's why I ended up on the front page of the New York Post, is because, they really wanted to, and I think the guy at the New York Post also wanted to make a almost, I don't know if it's a scapegoat or make an example of, hey, you know, here's a guy that has so much bravado. Here's a guy that has, you know, talks all this big talk. Now he has to pay up. You know, it's a story where people want to say, okay, shame on you, and slap me on the wrist.
Does it upset you?
Nah. You know, I mean, it's
Come
inspirational,
on,
man.
It's
inspirational.
For as hard as you worked to get to where you are.
It's
It's
inspirational,
gotta be
and I'll tell you,
frustrating
I'll
for
tell
you.
you what I mean by it's inspirational. A lot of people, and I think including the plaintiff himself and the attorneys that fought this case for a year, they thought that they would break me when this happened. You know, they thought that they would make an example of someone who was, you know, talking too big in the music industry, somebody that was too much of a, you know, it was so funny how I went from a wealthy musician the day before the verdict to a rap weasel the day that the verdict came down. You know, so interesting to me. You know, we went.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's
it's
crazy.
It's so interesting. The New York Post. I mean, 3 days in a row. Yeah, and also, you know, there was so many news outlets that wanted to interview me once the verdict came down, and I refused all the interviews. I said the only people that I feel deserve an explanation are my fans, because those are the people that are funding my career. So I had a concert the next day at Long Island University, and you know, I explained to the fans, and I put it on YouTube. It's had over 100,000 views. And anybody that wanted my response, they had to post that video. That was my statement. You know what I'm saying? But in any case, yeah, I think it can be worked out.
Okay.
And like I said, I won't be just writing a $1.18 million check to him. And you know, I think we'll be working it out over time, and he can take a percent. I mean, that's how it was always going to be awarded, though. See, those copyrights, I strongly believe were
The copyrights that were on the laptop,
Yes.
that was the thing. The value of that was that you had people's albums on that
Absolutely.
hard drive.
Absolutely, including my own.
And these beats are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for one of them in
Potentially
many cases.
millions.
Potentially millions.
Potentially millions. You know what I mean? My biggest record of all time has generated, you know, well over $2 or $3 million.
And that's
just
Me
one
and You,
record.
Cassie,
That's
right?
just one record.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So just imagine hundreds of compositions lost.
Yeah.
And each one of them having the potential, if placed on the right artist. You know, Cassie at that time was an unknown artist, right? A new artist. So imagine that same record on a marquee artist. And at the time,
Yeah.
I was in the studio, right around the time that all of those compositions were lost, I was in the studio working with the pinnacle, the titans of the hip hop industry.
Jay-Z, Kanye, Lil
Yeah.
Wayne,
Yeah.
everyone. Okay.
Yeah, you know. So to lose all of those compositions, I was never gonna just cut somebody a check for $1 million. I was going to offer them a percentage of the royalties.
That's even
that
more
any of those-
valuable.
Yeah, but I would have capped it at $1 million. I would have
Okay,
capped it at $1
okay.
million. You know, so I had an idea of how I wanted to compensate someone if they actually returned this intellectual property, and I was able to start generating wealth again from it.
I see.
I would
That
allow them
makes
to
sense.
participate in the wealth. Since they didn't actually return the copyrights, or I wasn't able to access the copyrights, I have a much harder time feeling that anyone is entitled to any of the earnings that I'm currently earning right now, that I'm working so hard towards.
Yeah.
You know, so I do actually have a, you know, I definitely have an issue, you know, cutting off a percentage of my show last night to this man. But at the end of the day, you know what? I take responsibility for putting that reward out. And, you know.
You think it was a mistake?
No, absolutely not. And I actually, you know, and my legal team was upset with me, but that evening at Long Island University, I said that there still exists a $1 million reward for anyone who can return those compositions to me, because you know, that will actually, I think we could probably pay 2 rewards, or
Oh my goodness.
pay a few rewards of $1 million if those compositions are returned, especially with the likes of Madonna coming to my concert.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
One of the things about celebrities is the perception of your wealth is something that can make you a target,
Yeah.
not just for lawsuits, but for family members, for philanthropy, for all kinds of things. You mentioned to me at one point that there was a website that put your celebrity net worth at, what was it?
$35 million.
$35 million. How did that affect you? Because that
I mean,
isn't your net worth, right?
Well, they brought that up in the lawsuit. You know what I mean? I mean, they brought up Wikipedia articles, and they brought up, you know, that celebrity net worth, you know, $35 million as, and even they brought it up, you know, I think in the closing statements. I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about it, but in the closing arguments of the lawsuit, you know, there was a comment that was made that said something like, you know, $1 million to Mr. Leslie's like $100 to all of you on the jury.
Oh, wow.
You know, so I mean, you know.
So you kind of find yourself caught in the middle because part of your job is to be an aspirational figure
Right.
for all of the young people that are watching you.
That's right.
So you have to show some excess in order to personify the American dream that you represent. But at the same time, that can be used against you.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? Once again, I feel like it comes with the territory, and you know, it's not like I'm going to be slowing down anytime soon. You know what I mean? We were just in Paris. You know, we hopping out the Lamborghini Aventadors. You know, we're in Vienna recording a new album. And that's exactly what I did. I lost that suit. I got on a plane. We pulled out the trucks. We took the plane. I took the whole team. We went to Vienna. We recorded a new album called Black Mozart. I made a film around it.
And this album's coming out when?
This album is coming out April 16th.
Okay.
When you're 24 years old and you know, you're talking, you know, well over $500,000. You know, this is probably the biggest check that I had ever seen in my life, or even in my parents' life. It's been my strategy to go out there and really just shatter anyone else's live performance, at least at the level that I'm doing it. Right now we're doing